All right, everybody, welcome to the Living Hope Agency call. Excited to be able to share with y'all today. Again, got a chance to share on the corporate base shop builders call, which is all about recruiting and marketing. And again, that's typically what I've taught in the past. Today, I got a chance to talk a little bit more about getting new agents independent, creating duplicatable systems. And really, once we do get agents in the door, and there are some new faces on here. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of how we got here, how the business has evolved, and obviously how we need to keep evolving inside of this business. And for any of y'all who don't know me, maybe you've seen me in boot camp, but I'll kind of give a quick intro to myself and talk a little bit about some of the transitions that our business has had and really what we're doing today with new agents with a focus on IULs. So I have personally been in business now for a better part of 12 years. I have been in 9 different businesses or opportunities within the last 12 years, which is kind of crazy to say. And inside of that time, I've made money, I've lost money, I've had a wild journey to say the least. I've jumped from opportunity to opportunity. I've launched businesses that found success very quickly. I've launched businesses that took forever to get off the ground. I've dealt with everything from theft and embezzlement from partners to bringing on massive teams from other companies to having massive teams leave my team to go to other companies. I've made best friends in business. I've lost best friends in business, and I've pivoted more times in business than I can even count, and pivoted a handful of times just inside of the insurance business. So all of that really to go ahead and say that your business isn't going to look the same a few years from now. Our business today doesn't look the same as it did a couple of years ago when I first got started, and especially anybody here who is considering building a team in any way, shape, or form, you really want to keep that in mind. So when I first got started in Family First Life, it was a relatively simple system that we all followed. It was very simple for us to wrap our mind around. And anybody who's been here for a couple of years, this was it. This is all that we did. And everybody sold insurance at the kitchen table in the home. There was no other option. And I joked earlier on the call because I'm pretty sure that somebody told me that telesales was illegal. They told me we weren't allowed to do it. And, obviously that's not the case, but we just had a big culture of people who were afraid of it, for whatever that reason being, whether it was persistency, whatever. But across the whole company, like if you did telesales, you were the black sheep for the first handful of years. So obviously so much has changed since then. The model when I first got started, it was very easy to understand. It was dial the phone, book 30 to 40 appointments in person. 20 of those are actually going to show up, and then you're going to sell 10 policies. So get 30 to 40 appointments, sit with 20, sell 10. And if you do that every single week, you're going to be a Hall of Fame producer and you're going to issue pay $400,000 in a year. And it really doesn't matter what lead type it is, whether they're $100 leads or $2 leads. If you have to dial, 2 hours in the morning or from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., as long as you got your 30 to 40 appointments and you sat with 20 and sold 10, you were going to do it. And that was the model. And it was very easy to wrap your mind around. And pretty much it was dial the phone until you get that done or you're not done. And that's what we would go ahead and teach other people on our teams to do as well. So that's obviously, transitioned, quite a bit. So there was this major transition that happened, to telesales about 2 years ago. And I personally feel like at the time, when that happened, Family First Life, insurance in general, it became like one of those choose your own adventure books where it's like, hey, turn to page 5 if you want to do this, turn to page 17 if you want to do that. And when we got new agents started, we'd ask them what they wanted to do. Hey, do you want to do telesales or do you want to do in-home? Do you want to do final expense or do you want to do mortgage protection? Do you want to dial your own leads or do you want to do live transfers? Do you want to set appointments or do you want to do one call close? And again, like I said, what ended up happening is we started asking people what they wanted to do. And we started seeing everybody on the team do all kinds of different things to see what would work. And obviously in the long run, that was good because it helped us to learn what worked and what didn't work. But if I'm being totally transparent and honest as a manager, what that did is I started to get confused and I started to question, like if I was getting agents started the right way because there were so many options. I'd ask agents what they wanted to do. And then realistically, they were going to choose whatever sounds like the easiest or the least amount of work. And I had people doing, all kinds of things. So when you have people doing live transfers and final expense and IUL and this and that, and everyone's focusing on different things. What did that require? It required a lot of training about a lot of different things. So little training for this, little training for that. And it was just all over the place. And what ended up happening is new agents were coming out of our boot camp, which we have a new one coming out here shortly, which is probably a third the size. So anybody went through our last boot camp, it was 14 hours long. So you'll be happy to hear that we cut it down, divided it by three, and condensed a lot of information. But people were coming out, of course, with analysis paralysis. A lot of good information, but at the end of the day, maybe, egos got the best of us and we wanted people to hear us talk and, podcast style through everything. But long and short of it is agents were coming out confused. Our lead strategy sessions with agents were a little overwhelming because we're going through the ILC and saying, hey, let's look at your state and look at the 12 different lead options that are available. And we were doing something different for everybody. Everyone had a different plan, and what we were doing really wasn't duplicatable. And then I started looking around and seeing what some of the most successful teams and agencies in the company were doing. And I started to notice that for the most part, and obviously not true all the time, but most of the top agencies who were growing and recruiting the fastest, they had all of their people rowing in the same direction. So you look at like Vivian Wells' team, everybody on their team does Zoom call mortgage protection with call-in leads. You look at some of the other teams under like Limitless, Nina Hayden, Bowen, Jay Maska, they've got all of their people doing one call close with internet leads, and obviously some IULs and things like that. But you see these little subgroups all over the country. Caitlin Blackburn's team, they're all doing lock-ins. That's what they do. They're all rowing in the same direction, even maybe different lead types, but just in general, they have one game plan that their whole team follows. And I started to notice this, and obviously, beginning of the year, February, we had our convention, and we saw a big transition to IULs and simple retirement solutions, annuities, all of that stuff. This massive shift started to happen, and more and more agents started to get excited about it for obvious reasons. You see so many people in this group starting to talk about persistency, less policies falling off the books, and anybody who's kind of switched into the IUL space, I'm sure that you've noticed less chargebacks for yourself. The average annual premium increasing. I'm sure that anybody here has noticed that if you were previously doing 10 grand a week and it took you 12 clients to do it, now you're doing 10 grand a week on like 3 clients, and you're starting to see just like a difference in the IUL business versus some of the other parts of what we do. And again, just people are getting excited. I think that's my favorite part about it. Life insurance is a very morbid topic. We're talking about death and dying all day long, and final expense and mortgage protection. It's a need-based sale. Hey, Bob, Mary, if you die, Bob, you make 4 grand, Mary, you make 2 grand. The mortgage is 3, Mary, you can't make the mortgage payment. You need this coverage. And IUL is more of a greed-based sale. We're talking about what happens if they live. And it's just a totally different conversation. Yes, life insurance, that's what we do. But we've just had fun talking to people about their retirement and their future if they're still here. And the life insurance is a massive bonus, and it takes care of families. And I'm just as passionate as ever about death benefit, living benefit, the insurance side. But how can you not get excited when you're talking to people about, fun, positive things that they can use that money for in the future, retiring, all that stuff. So we started to see a shift inside of our team. And I've noticed that for the most part, a lot of our agents who've been here have been a little bit more experienced, have started to niche down into selling IULs. And it's been a really cool transition to see people do. I've seen a lot of people create a little bit more, I think work-life balance is BS, but I've seen people create kind of more harmonious lifestyle where, at least for me personally, since I started selling IULs, I got a date night with my wife, I got a family night with my family, different things. I'm getting more production on 3 full days a week with 2 half days than I was on 6 full days because of the way that I'm working my schedule, and I'm just having fun. And I think that's the biggest thing is I want to make sure that we're creating something that's sustainable for people. I've been doing this for 4 years. And if I continued to do what I did for 3 years, even though I made more money than I ever made in any other opportunity, I was about this close to burning out. So creating something that's sustainable for people, it makes it easier to recruit to as well. Because if you're burning out, you've got this little voice in the back of your mind that's like, if I recruit this person, are they going to burn out too? Are they going to be mad at me if I recruit them and they work really, really hard and it's not sustainable for them? So all that to be said, IUL is really where we're niching down here. And we're going to talk a lot about that. And we've talked a lot about that. And you've noticed most of the trainings over the last, 4 months have been niching down to this. But I think that anybody can learn how to sell IUL. But it takes a very specific person to get good at it. Okay, here's what I mean by that. It may take somebody a little bit longer to get the ball rolling, but once they get the ball rolling and they figure it out, I think we're going to create, quote, like a better agent. And this is not like me trying to be like too judgy on people, but at the end of the day, here's what happens in our business. And again, if you've watched some of our newer videos about, why not to join the life insurance, we talk about chargebacks, we talk about roll up, we talk about the pros and the cons of this business. And at the end of the day, I think anybody can come into this business and sell a final expense policy. They can just kind of, excuse my language, F their way through it and sell Mary a final expense policy and figure it out. And they can go out there and they could just kind of accidentally show up and sell 8 policies in a week. And they do it with some bad practices. Things fall off the books. Industry standard is 30% falls off, even if you're a good agent. That's the average. I know people who have a 95% persistency, but again, we're talking averages. So people have things that fall off the books, and just anybody can come to this business and make money and then be out of the business just as quick as they came in for a handful of reasons that we talk about in boot camp and some of the videos that most of y'all have seen. But I think that if someone goes through and they get started with IUL as their singular focus to begin, and they go through all that training, they learn illustrations, they learn how to talk to people about tax-free retirement, they develop the skills that it takes to be a more high-quality agent selling a high-quality product, we're going to reduce chargebacks, debt, roll-up, all the things that people are afraid of in this business. And I feel like we've at least discovered that when we put a new agent in that position, it creates a sorting process and it kicks out some of the lower quality agents. And like, again, not lower quality people, but just lower quality agents. And what I mean by that is that if somebody comes into the business and they don't make a sale, they're just going to quit. And if they quit, that means I'd rather somebody come in, not make any sales and quit than come in and make 5 sales and 4 chargeback. That's just me personally. I'd rather them come in and make no sales and quit than make 5 and have 4 charged back. So the people who figure it out, we're creating a higher quality agent in the process. So again, every team kind of has their own niche, and I'm not saying you have to do this. We're totally independent. We're just creating a game plan where the majority of our people can have a direction to row. We have at our high point had 200 agents write a policy in a month. But what I'm realizing, and I think this is something that a lot of people, they're trying to wrap their mind around, like, oh man, if I ever want to build an agency, I need to get 200 agents. Like that's a big goal or a mountain to wrap your mind around. And when you have 200 agents where, 80% of the volume is done by 20% of the agents, like that's the reality for most agencies. The top 20% of the agents do 80% of the volume. The bottom 80% of the agents do the remaining 20% of the volume. So what I've realized is I would personally, I look back at the last, couple of years, I wish I could have spent more individual time with direct agents as opposed to trying to give a little bit of time to everybody. I would rather have 20 people, 20 direct agents who are just absolute killers, 20 agents selling 20 to 40 grand a month. They reach the highest level in the comp grid, 20 points of spread. You get 20 agents doing 20K a month at 20 points of spread. That's $1 million a year in overrides. When I was in network marketing, to have $1 million a year, you needed like 50,000 people in your downline or something crazy, paying $100 a month. In insurance, if you're doing it on, the traditional model, you needed hundreds of people, probably anywhere between 100 to 300 people. And you're going to have 20% of them doing 80% of the volume. But what I'm realizing is spending more time with an agent, helping them figure it out, increasing their persistency, increasing their average premium. It's going to create a more sustainable agent. And at the end of the day, I'd rather deal with less agents than more agents and help those agents that we do have be really, really successful. And the way I look at it is if we were to clear the deck right now, which I don't want to because I love the people that we have, but if we were to clear the deck and you told me I had to start over and it was going to take me another 5 to 10 years to find 20 agents that would rather die than roll me debt, would rather die than quit this business. They love what they do. They love helping people with their retirements, with IULs, with life insurance. They're doing 20 grand a month, 40 grand a month. It took me 5 to 10 years to do that, to earn $1 million in overrides. I would restart this whole business if someone could guarantee that would happen. if I just continued the search and I'd find those 20 people over the next 5 to 10 years. I absolutely would. So all that to kind of preface, really a way that we're helping new agents get started with IULs. And, of course, we have them go through boot camp and we follow a very simple process. Some of you guys have already started, doing some of this with us. So it's going to be a review, but for anybody on who's like, well, how do I get started selling IULs? Obviously, we need to get some leads in your hand. So there's really one model for a new agent. It's get aged IUL leads in your hand. And we've got a plethora of aged IUL leads inside of the Integrity Lead Center. So you've got two options. One, you have money to come in and buy aged IUL leads. Or two, we need to make a list of friends and family that you know that an IUL will be a good fit for, make a quick commission, and then use that money to buy aged IUL leads. Like that's the model if you want to get started in IUL. And when someone's getting started, your job really is not to do the whole thing. Your job is to set appointments and go through the first call. Set appointments and go through the first call. And we'll talk about this. This is a document that we can share, that I've been sharing with people all day, that we have inside of Lead Champ Pro, talking about how to set the table with people when it comes to IULs. So that first appointment or that first phone call is really, I got a batch of 100 aged IUL leads, and I'm doing a traditional phone script of, hey, Josh, this is Jamie. I'm just getting back with you. You filled out that request online looking for IULs, be your own bank, tax-free retirement. You put down you wanted to save for your retirement. You remember doing that? Hey, I'm just the advisor here in South Carolina who's been assigned to get that info to you. Takes about 10 minutes. Do you prefer a phone call back Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays? For a phone call back mornings, afternoons, evenings, however you want to do it. And then you're going to set the appointment, do all the things we teach you guys in boot camp about cementing the appointment. If you use Lead Champ, you're going to get some text reminders and different things that happen. But your only goal is to call those people and set appointments. And then it is to go through a very simple first appointment script that lasts no more than 10 minutes that anybody on here can do without having anybody there to assist you, and then set up a second call with your manager, okay? And when you set up that second call with your manager, you do that, 5 to 10 times. You're going to see how it all goes. The manager is going to go ahead and sell it for you. You guys are going to split the commission, and you're going to start figuring out how this works. So I'll break down, some basics here on how that works here in a moment. But we're going to spend the majority of this time going through that first call script, not as much with the second call with the manager. But one thing I want to make sure I share, and this is something that I want to make sure that anybody who is a manager, you go create something like this for yourself, whether you use Calendly or Lead Champ Pro, is a little link that I created. I just put it in the chat. It's a Calendly link for presentation assistance. Okay. So this is a game changer, at least for me personally. Raise your hand to be honest. Who's ever sent me a text message and I haven't answered you? A bunch of people, okay? And that's just my toxic trait. But a lot of the times you're like, hey, I've got a client. Can you do a three-way call with me? Hey, can you do a lead strategy session for my new agent? Hey, can you get on and do a new agent interview? Like whatever those things are. And I realized that I run by my calendar. I'm a slave to my calendar in a good way. And my inbox, that's a whole nother story. So if something gets on my calendar, I'm on it. Like last week, I had an average of like 20 to 25 appointments every single day. And it was like, I'm just following my calendar. What's next? What's next? We had a group of us who are doing 75 hard right now. It's like, it says workout. I was like, okay, let's go work out. It says read. Let's go read. It's like literally whatever's on my calendar is what's happening. So the easiest thing that you can do, and this link right here, I send to all my new agents, and you should have one if you have any agents on your team, is you say, hey, when you're dialing the phone, when you do that first appointment with somebody, when you go to set the second call appointment, pull up this link and then find an available time on my schedule to schedule the appointment when you're available and the client's available. Instead of the awkward three-way text, hey, Jamie, I got a client that I need some help with designing the illustration. When are you free? And it's like now we're comparing schedules back and forth via text message. We're trying to compare with your client at the same time, or you're on the phone call with the client and you've now got this link in front of you. So this is a great one that people can use. If anybody ever wants presentation assistance from me, I'll make sure I send this in Discord, and we'll kind of dig into that a little bit more in depth, how you can use it here in a second. But that's that. And then anybody who ever needs assistance with new agent interview or lead strategy session, that's just side topic. You can book appointments for those things. You don't know what leads to buy, book a call on my calendar. You got a new agent that you want to bring on, book a call on my calendar. Like any of those things, they're there, they're available for you, and we should all be using them. But the whole point of this is that you now have, all you have to wrap your mind around is, can I set the appointment? Can I do the first 10 minutes? And then can I set a second appointment with my manager who's going to sell it for me? We had a new agent, Alexis Warren, got her first sale maybe a week and a half ago. She got 100 aged IUL leads, and we booked like 3 appointments. Nothing crazy. One of them showed up, two of them no showed. And guess what? The one that showed up, we sold, and she got a $2,400 commission that we split down the middle. All she had to do was call, set the appointment, do the first 10 minutes, gather the information, which I'm going to teach y'all here in a second. And then I did the second appointment for her. When we did the second appointment, her and I were in a breakout room on Zoom. I shared my screen. And when I was sharing my screen with the client, all that stuff, she could see me using Crank Wheel, how I was sharing my screen with the client. She could see me filling out the application. And then all the fears and the worries that this new agent had about what does the application look like? How do I answer this question? What do I do here? What do I do here? A lot of that just kind of drifted away. And now really excited to buy her next batch of leads and do it again because she saw what was possible. And I'm like, hey, once we were done, I'm like, do you think that you could do what I just did? She's like, yes, I could do that. So that's where there's like a big thing. For me, I got the analysis paralysis of like, well, I've never logged into America. I've never logged into Mutual of Omaha and done an illustration, NLG. It took me probably up until like a month ago to not be afraid of the NLG illustration software. But it's like enough times as somebody else running me through it. And then I'm like, okay, I can do this. And now I don't need help anymore. So you can book an appointment on there. I'll get an email notification and, so will your client. And then I'll show up to the call. We'll do the presentation, split the commission. Okay, so let's just jump into the setting the table script here. Let me go ahead and get this screen shared, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this okay. And here we are. All right, give me a thumbs up if you can see this. Thumbs up, perfect. Okay, so this is a very simple script. Shout out to Josh Lockhart. Of course, always shout out to Josh Lockhart because he comes up with most of this stuff. But this is all you're doing. So I set the appointment. I get on, hey, Kasha, you fill this out, blah, 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 blah. Morning, afternoons, evenings, mornings. Okay, great. I'll call you Tuesday at 9. All right, it's Tuesday at 9. Hey, Kasha, this is Jamie. I'm just calling for our IUL appointment. You still available? Yes. Okay, and all I'm going to do, and you don't have to go exactly through this, say exactly what's on here, but just kind of BS with them a little bit. Hey, when you filled this out, you were looking at IULs. Have you done any research before? Have you heard about IULs? Like, what were you looking for? Just kind of get them talking. Did you see things like be your own bank, tax-free retirement, life insurance? Yep. Okay, great. What were you kind of looking for? Why do you want this? Let them talk. Okay, so here's what we're going to do today. We're just going to walk through the 5 reasons that people get an IUL and the 3 most common setups. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your health. We're going to talk about budget, and then we're going to set up another call, and I'm going to do some homework for you. Simple as that. We should be done in 5 to 10 minutes. It's like, okay, great. Hey, Kasha, IUL, indexed universal life insurance. It's a life insurance contract that you can save money inside of for your retirement. Simple as that. You know what life insurance is, right? Yes. Okay. When you die, money pays out. That's the death benefit. That's the first thing. So when you die, let's say you got a $100,000 benefit, beneficiary of your choice is going to get paid $100,000. Have you ever heard of living benefits? Yes, no. Well, it's kind of like the death benefit, but you don't have to die to use it. You have a heart attack, stroke, cancer, become sick or disabled, that money is going to pay out as well. It's great for income replacement if you become too sick or hurt to work. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, great. So that's the life insurance side. Now we've got the cash accumulation. I always like to, explain it like, hey, Kasha, have you ever had a 401k? Yes, no. Someone had a 401k. Like everyone knows what a 401k is. It's like, okay, money comes out of your check, it goes into this account and it grows. The IUL is similar to a 401k, meaning that a portion of the amount that you put in is going to go towards the cost of insurance and the portion is going to go towards the cash value. So it's going to grow with interest like a 401k. Say things really simply like, hey, it goes up, but it can't go down. People are like, what does that mean? The goal here is not to enamor them with your vocabulary on finances. Like these are middle American blue collar people who are not rich. Out of 20 appointments, you'll find one that's rich. You'll find like 5 to 10 that are affluent, meaning like they're a trucker who makes $6,000 a month. And most of them are going to be like $50 to $100 clients. like real simple people just trying to get started. So yeah, talk to them like real people, not like they're wealthy. So, hey, it can go up, it can't go down. Meaning, hey, if you had your money in a 401k in 2008, it lost 38%. If you had your money in an IUL, it lost zero. The IUL has the ability to participate in the gains of the market, but it doesn't participate in the downside. So if next year the 401k makes 10%, the IUL might only make 8. And that's where the insurance company makes their money. But if everyone else loses 10%, you lose zero. So you're protected. We're protected on the downside, but we still get to participate on the upside. Does that make sense? Yes. So you can accumulate money inside of the policy. It's going to grow tax-free. And when you go to withdraw it with a loan, you're going to be able to withdraw it tax-free. Does that all make sense? Yes. So we're not getting deep in the weeds here. That's second call. We're just getting a real basic idea. And is that what you were looking for or something different? Yes, that's exactly what I was looking for. Perfect. All right, now I'm going to walk you through the 3 most common setups. The 3 most common setups. And I always pause here and slow down. This is where you can build an immense amount of trust with a client because this is how we're explaining how we get paid. So this is how, no offense to any other agent out there that I'm competing against from another IMO who's trying to sell them a policy, but this is how I establish myself over that other agent because most people don't talk about the setups and it's like they're hiding something. They might set them up in the right way, but it builds trust when you say, hey, there's 3 different ways we get paid, or there's 3 different ways that you can fund this policy, set it up, structure it, and we get paid on the amount of life insurance that you buy. So if you buy a lot of life insurance and have a huge benefit, you're going to maximize my commission. If you buy the minimum amount of life insurance, I'm going to get a minimum commission. I want to make sure that's super clear with them. It's like, hey, if any agent talks to you about IULs and they don't explain the common setups, just be careful. That's a red flag because it means they might be hiding something from you. If I'm going to get paid a huge commission because you need a lot of life insurance, that's one thing because that's what you need. I'm going to ask you questions to find out what you need. If you don't need that and you already have insurance, we'll talk about cash accumulation, minimize my commission. Doesn't matter. I'm trying to put you in the best position. So I make sure that's super clear. So, hey, here's the 3 most common setups. Talk about $100, just to give them a very easy visual. Hey, imagine $100. Of that $100, $100 a month is going into your policy. Protection focus means we're going to take as much of that $100 as allowed, and we're going to get as much insurance as we can possibly get. And then whatever's left over, the bonus is going to be the cash value. So maybe let's say 70 or 80% of that $100, depending on your age, is going to go towards the cost of insurance. And whatever's left over is going to go towards the cash value. That's a protection focus. Now, on the opposite side, we have a cash accumulation focus, which is we want to get the bare minimum, the actual legal minimum amount of life insurance. Like I literally can't get any less life insurance. I want to get the minimum amount of life insurance, maximum amount of cash growth. Flip that over. We'll say maybe $20 or $30 is going towards the cost of insurance and the rest is going towards the cash value. Then you've got a blended focus, which is if you take that $100, basically split it down the middle, 50-50, $50 into life insurance, $50 into cash value. And I ask them if that makes sense and talk about kind of where they might be leaning. Most people are either leaning towards 2 or 3. Most people are leaning towards cash accumulation or a blend because they love the idea of the living benefits and all of that other stuff. Like it's just, they're such good products that how could they not? It's very rare that I've heard somebody say, I want a protection focus, unless it's like a mortgage protection. It's like, no, I need the coverage, as opposed to, wanting to grow their money for retirement. So you've got that basic info. You know why they want a policy. They know what it is. They know the couple different structures. You got an idea of what kind of structure they're looking for. Asking them a few basic questions about their health and their income. And then we're going to find out their budget. Then we're going to set up another call. So this right here, this is a big one in terms of finding out budget. I think Josh said it best. If you ask this question in a lazy way, you're going to get a lazy answer. So a lot of agents, and I found myself doing this for a couple months, and Bob, how much do you want to put into your IUL per month? People's $50 a month, $300 a month, whatever that number is. And they'll say something. And then I would go path the least resistance. Okay, $50 a month. And I write them up a $50 a month sale. No big deal. But I was leaving a bunch of money on the table because I wasn't asking this question well. So what I started saying is I'd say, hey, Bob, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is what's going to help me do my homework and draw up an illustration for you, create a spreadsheet with some options. And just the bigger the number that you give me, just remember, the cooler the illustration is going to look. Okay. So I'm going to ask you this question in two different ways. Bob, one, what is the most if you really push yourself? And I'm talking on a perfect month, nothing's going wrong, no emergencies, no unexpected bills. What is the absolute most that you think that you could save for your retirement each month? Number one. But on the flip side of that, number two, on a bad month, everything is going wrong. Tires pop on your car, roof leaks, emergency bills, emergency this, emergency that. What is a minimum that you could commit to saving per month, no matter what? And then just stop talking. Let them say something. And you're going to get some crazy answers. You're going to get answers of people who are self-employed, and they'll say things like, on a bad month, I could do 200. On a good month, I could do 4,000. You're going to get crazy answers like that. Or you're going to get the most typical answer, which is like 50 on a bad month, 150 on a good month, 200 to 500. Like, you're going to get some ranges, and it's going to give you an idea. And it's like, it's cool because when you're selling just straight up life insurance, it's like, well, how much coverage do you want? $500,000. Well, you're 65. It costs $1,000 a month. That's what it costs. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Versus how much do you want to put in? And then we're going to tell you how much coverage comes with that based on how we structure it. It's just a totally different conversation. So finding out the budget, finding out what the minimum and the maximum is, and then rescheduling an appointment for you to jump back on and build an illustration for them with a manager. Now, a couple of caveats here. When you're brand new, it doesn't matter if it's $50 a month or $5,000 a month. Schedule a second appointment with your manager. If you've been here for a while, anything that's like 50 to 200 to $300 a month that you can get inside of America or Mutual of Omaha, I'll go into some details soon. Just start building the illustration, finish the appointment right there if they're open to it. If you don't need to do some crazy illustration, there's no fully underwritten process. But for the most part, if you're learning, the second appointment is mostly so you can learn. It's so you can learn from your manager what to say and how to do it. So reschedule that. Do the second appointment, and then we'll build that illustration while you're on the phone with your manager. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll go ahead and we'll share that document with everybody. But we just are teaching the agent to master setting the appointment and setting the table. And then we'll have the manager do the presentation, the illustration, the application, all that stuff. Put your code on the application and, get you a free commission for doing half the work. You'll get paid half the money. And again, we're going to screen share the whole process of the application with the agent, so it's not unknown. And we're also going to show you how to share it with the client so they can see what you're doing on the other side, so they're no longer skeptical about giving bank info and social security info, all of that, because they can see you in the application. And you're going to do this with your manager 5 to 10 times. And eventually, you're going to start becoming confident and thinking, I can do this myself. I don't need anybody, and I can do this myself. The last thing I want to talk about, especially for someone who's building a team, why would I promote specific carriers over another? I think this is big, and I want to spend a little bit of time here as we're kind of landing the plane. Some of this is going to go over a lot of people's head, but if you've been here for a while, you'll understand. So if you got into IULs and you started watching trainings and videos, there's like what Josh and I call like the IUL zealots. Like, there's people out there who go, it has to be this way every single time, no matter what, or you're doing a disservice to the client. Like, it has to be increasing, it has to be level, it has to be this company, it has to be that company. If you don't do max fund every single time, you're doing a disservice to the client. And that is not true. It's all about how you explain it to the client, making it super clear about how they're going to be funding their policy. So a couple different caveats here. So there are 4 carriers that our team really is focused on. Mutual of Omaha, Americo, National Life Group, and F&G. Those are the 4 carriers on the IUL side that we're trying to get as much of our business condensed inside of for a handful of reasons. There's a lot of companies that have IULs, but honestly, the underwriting's about the same with most of the big carriers. So if you're going to do big cases, my suggestion is, everyone on here, if you're going to do big cases, all your big cases should go to the same company. This is my personal opinion. There's not really much of a reason to be spreading it out. The reason that we have so many carriers on the final expense and mortgage protection side is because underwriting comes into play so much. You're trying to get them some coverage. So you've got policies here and there and all over the place. But IULs, they got to be in pretty decent health. Like they got to be able to at least qualify for a term policy to get an IUL anyways. So if they can qualify for one IUL, most of the time they could qualify for any IUL. There's obviously some wiggle room. So I'll make sure that I give you some of the caveats there. But typically, what you're looking at is their age. So if someone's 50 and they want to put in more than 10 times their age, so somebody who's 50 wants to put in over 500 a month, 40 wants to put in over 400 a month, 60 wants to put in over 600 a month. Like that's when you start getting into some of the bigger carriers. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you can still jam a 50-year-old who wants to put 500 a month inside of Mutual of Omaha policy. But for the most part, the death benefit ends up getting too high and it maxes out and they can't put in that much. So couple rule of thumb, like we want to stay in business. That's really important as well. And NLG and F&G have longer underwriting processes. Americo and Mutual of Omaha have instant decision. Americo, 99.9% of the time, instant decision. Mutual of Omaha, probably 80 to 90% of the time, instant decision, approved, denied, issued policy, client pays, you get paid. If they pay, when on the issue date, you can get paid within 48 hours. Like it's quick. So we got to stay in business, number one. Number two, we need to make sure that the client's getting covered. And then we also need to make sure that the client understands, how the policy is structured and how it works. So I'll give a couple of caveats. So you guys have heard, minimum death benefit, maximum cash value, all of that. Many people don't know that you can do that on the Mutual of Omaha IULE policy. You just have to have a membership to what's called WinFlex. So you can't just go in and do the Easy Solve option. Easy Solve is just basically it's protection focus, or it's technically it's more of a blended focus. It's like a 50-50, the Easy Solve is. And you have to go into WinFlex, you have to run an illustration, you have to max fund it, DocuSign it, attach it to the application. That, even though there's that extra step there, if I can get a policy to fit inside the parameters of an IULE max funded, I'm going to do that every single time over jumping to one of these larger carriers like NLG or F&G. So I had a client the other day who was like a 52-year-old smoker. So smoker is obviously going to double the rate. He said he could put in 800 a month. And if he was a non-smoker, he wouldn't have been able to fit that 800 a month inside the IULE. But because he was a smoker, it jacked up his cost of insurance. And for 300,000 or 250, whatever it was like $779 a month. And I was able to go ahead and put that one through, and it was max funded. So I was able to help him out, and I was able to get him approved, get paid quickly. So if I can fit it inside of the parameters of Mutual of Omaha's death benefit, max funded, I'm going to do that every single time if it's someone who really cares about max funding their policy day one. Now, here's a caveat. You're going to find some people, you're going to find a lot of people that are going to say, I can put in $100 now, I can put in $200 now, but a year from now, I'd like to put in $400 a month. A year from now, I'd like to double what I put in. This is the perfect candidate for an Americo IUL. This is the perfect candidate. Now, some of y'all don't know this, and some of you do. So with National Life Group, you can go in and you can go on the app and you can like add money whenever you want into your policy. With Americo, you can actually do the same thing, but you have to call it in. So when you go to run an Americo illustration. So I'm just going to pull this up here really quickly. And of course, I forgot, I got to put the code in. So bear with me here for a moment. Did this earlier too and forgot to be logged in. But what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking for something inside of the illustration called the guideline level premium. And this has helped me so much with selling. So in the last week, I did, I don't know, 30, I don't know even what the leaderboard said. It was somewhere between 30 and 40, and like 25 of it was Americo Simplified Issue IUL. So the way that it's been sold, I'll go 50-year-old Americo IUL. So I get on with a 50-year-old, pretty modest job, makes $3,000 a month, and he says, I can put in $100 a month. Okay, that's $1,200 a year. He's going to get $80,617 in insurance. So I'm going to open up this illustration here. All right, so I'm going to find guideline. So guideline level premium. Probably a lot of y'all haven't ever seen this before. So top right corner, you see $100 a month. Right here, you see guideline level premium, which is $22.68. So when he does $100 a month, what he's doing is he's committing that the absolute minimum, his minimum is $100 a month. This is the minimum that I will let the company auto debit out of my account. And for doing that, I'm going to have $80,000 worth of coverage. And when we go to look at the actual illustration, you'll see here 1,200 going in year one, about 625 in accumulated value. So the Americo and the Moo Easy Solve are really a blended focus. About half of what you're putting in is going towards the cost of insurance, and half is going towards the cash value. So what I'm showing them is this illustration is what your policy could look like if everything goes right, if you minimally fund it with $100 a month. That's your floor. The ceiling is $22.68 per year. So that means that you can add in almost an extra $100 a month. So that would be an additional about $1,100 a year that you could add in. So, hey, you could call up Americo, and if you're doing your $100 a month and you randomly have $300 extra, you can throw it in there. You have $50, throw it in there. You get a tax return for $1,000, throw it in there. As long as you don't go over $22.68 for the year. Okay. So I've had people where I've got them started, they go $300 a month and they want to go up to 600. And I'm just very clear with them. Like, hey, we are not max funding this policy. We are getting you started because you said that you're going to add more later. So we're going to do an annual review at the end of the year, and we're going to talk about you continuing to fund this policy and overfund it. Because the cool thing is, if they're committing to their $1,200 a year, the $100 a month, and they go put in 500, 100% of that goes towards the cash value. 100%. Any extra money above their minimum premium here goes towards the cash value. So what's happening is that illustration is actually going to look cooler, because what you saw was 625 in cash value. Well, if you've got 625 in cash value here, but then you're putting in your $100 a month, but then you actually go up to the max fund at 2268. Like, this is really going to look closer to 1800 by the time that, you're basically doing 1,800 a year instead of 625 a year. So these numbers are going to look a lot cooler and grow a lot faster if you max fund it. But it allows somebody to start off at a lower premium and increase later, as opposed to I could take this same $100. I could go over to National Life Group. I could go over to F&G. I could max fund the policy. My commission's obviously going to get, cut quite a bit because I'm max funding it. And it's going to take 3-4 weeks to issue. And the client, because we're max funding it, they can't put another dime in. Max fund means we are putting the most amount in per year for the amount of insurance we're getting. We're locking that in. We can't get more insurance. That's it. And in order to put more in, you'd have to get another policy. We'd have to structure it differently. So when you do it this way, it allows people to get started and allows them to kind of max fund it on their own time. Now, if you just sell someone an American policy and you don't explain that, and you tell them, hey, you're going to be a millionaire, that is not the right way to do it. But if you get on with somebody and you say, hey, we're getting you started here. This is the floor. This is the ceiling. You told me you're going to hit the ceiling. I'm going to check in with you. And if you got like Lead Champ Pro and stuff, you can create built-in check-ins with these people once a year. You can schedule text messages to check in with them to make sure they're going to do what they said they're going to do. And at the end of the day, if I explain that to them, I can go to bed and sleep well at night, knowing that I helped them, but also put myself in a better position as an agent because I was able to instantly issue something and keep the lights on in my business. So if I can put things like someone who's starter policy is what I call it. All my starter policies, Americo. Somebody who they want a max funded IUL, but they can fit inside the parameters of a Mutual of Omaha IULE. I'm going there every time. And anything above that, my personal preference I'm leaning towards is National Life Group. There are some different scenarios where if you're going to go fully underwritten anyways, you might as well go F&G because the comp's higher. And if you're getting there, do a presentation assistance with a manager and they'll tell you what carrier to write so you don't have to worry about making that decision yourself. But just trust me that at the end of the day, like keeping the lights on is very important in your business. As long as you're making sure the client understands how the policy works, how it's funded, et cetera, you can go to bed and sleep well at night. And that's why my deposits have been well over 20,000 with Americo this week. All policies that were written in the last 7 days. I have an NLG policy that I wrote for 21 grand last week that I probably won't get paid on for 6 weeks. So at the end of the day, selling the carrier that is good for the client, but also the carrier that's good for you too, because you're an agent and you're in business and you have to stay in business as long as you make sure the client knows exactly what's happening. So then at the end of the call, I get on with the client and I go, hey, listen, this is how we structured this. And we structured it for a very specific way. So if any other agent calls you and tells you that I screwed you over, I structured it incorrectly, what are you going to tell them? I'm going to tell them to F off. Like whatever they're going to tell, like I'm going to tell them, I'm going to hang up on them. It's like, in Lead Champ, you can write down the reason why they got the policy and it will text it to them, email it to them. I'll write out a little paragraph. I'll spend a few extra minutes explaining why we structured it the way that we structured it. So if anybody else calls to be like, well, why did you do that? Well, the reason we did that is because they said they're going to add more money later. They said their income's going to increase. They said they're going to go from 50 a month to 100 a month or 200 to 400. That's why we did it that way. So all these things in mind, at the end of the day, do calls with your manager, split the commission, learn it. It's worth it to split the commission. I would give away half my commissions in the beginning of my career if I could have learned this sooner. Took me 4 years to get into it. If I would have given away 70% of my commissions, if I could have learned this sooner, for all the handful of different reasons. So, yeah, at the end of the day, we've got a lot of different resources that are coming for you guys. New IUL Bootcamp is coming shortly, which we're really excited about. And it's going to be a great resource for you. A lot of new campaigns with Lead Champ Pro. If you're not using Lead Champ Pro, I couldn't be doing the amount of appointments I'm doing without it. Had like 120 appointments in the last 2 weeks. I mean, that'll do it. It's just, I think right now after this call, I'm double booked for the next 3 hours, 2 appointments each slot. So it's like 6 appointments. I don't know, 12 appointments in the next 3 hours, which I don't know how that happened. But at the end of the day, we've got cool tools, automations, we've got leads, we've got great training, education. We're continuing to make it better and better and better. You don't have to know everything. All you have to know is, can I call the person and say, you filled this out, let's set up an appointment? Can I go through 10 minutes explaining what is an IUL, the basic structures of how it works, the couple different structures, figure out what their budget is, set up a second call with a manager, split a commission, do that 5 to 10 times, and then be off to the races to be able to help other people with IULs? Yes, you absolutely can do that. And if you can't do that, then that's okay. It's not a good fit. We're looking for people. We're looking for higher quality agents. We're looking for people to become higher quality agents. What's the cliche in sales and network marketing? We're not looking to motivate people. We're looking for motivated people. There it is. We're looking for motivated people who want to take the time to learn this stuff. And if you're a motivated person, I'll answer the phone all day long. I will go out of my way to answer your text messages, phone calls, etc. But just in case, got all those calendar links for you to make sure that you can guarantee the time is available. So I hope this helps. If you need the link to that document, it's inside a Lead Champ, but it's also a Google document. So I'm gonna put my phone number here in the chat. You can go ahead and save that. Just shoot me a text, say your name, and send me the document or something like that. And I'll go ahead and send you a link to that document so you can have it for yourself. But otherwise, if you have questions, if you need a lead strategy session, go back in the chat, grab one of those. You got a new agent that you want to bring on, grab a link. If you're a manager and you don't have calendar links for yourself like that to do presentation assistance and help people out with leads, go get those created. And otherwise, yeah, we got appointments tonight until 8, 9 o'clock. So we're excited and hope you guys got something out of this. We're going to continue to make the resources even better. So we'll talk to y'all soon and have a good night, everybody.